The House will come to order. The Pledge of Allegiance this morning will be led by Stephen Docterman, Alliance, Colorado.
Can you please join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we have a special treat this morning. The national anthem will be performed by Jonathan Schuffelbein. Could I please have your attention? The national anthem will be sung by Jonathan Schuffelbein.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, their bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Mr. Randall, please call the roll.
Representatives Arndt, Baisley, Beckman, Benavides, Byrd, Bockenfeld, Buck, Buckner, Puenteo, Caravale, Carver, Catlin, Coleman, Cutter, Duran, Escar, Exum, Froelich, Galindo, Garnett, Geithner, Gonzalez Gutierrez, Gray, Representative Gray,
Excused.
Hanson,
You did a great job.
Harrod, Hooten, Humphrey,
Excused.
Jackson, Marquez Lewis, Kennedy, Kipp, Representative Gray is present. Kraft Tharp, Landgraf, Larson, Lewis, Liston, Lontine, McCluskey, McKean, McLaughlin, Melton, Mollica, Neville, Pelton, Ransom, Rich. Roberts. Sane.
Excused.
Sandridge. Singer. Sirota. Snyder.
You can go out that way.
Soper. Representative Humphrey is present. Sullivan. Tipper. Tatone. Valdez A.
Perfect.
Valdez D. Van Winkle. Weissman. Representative Weissman. Williams. Wilson. Wilson. Madam Speaker Becker.
Excused. With 62 present, 2 excused, none absent, 1 vacant, a quorum is present. Representative Galindo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. I move that the reading of the Journal of Tuesday, February 26, be dispensed with and approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk.
You have heard the motion that the journal be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk. All in favor say aye. All opposed, no. Motion passes. Are there any announcements or introductions? Representative Kraft-Tharp.
Thank you, members. Let's all welcome the Colorado Technology Association to the Capitol today. They've got tables set up downstairs in the West Foyer. And the Blockchain Council. We've got members of the innovative, creative blockchain industry that are here downstairs on the first floor. They'll be here, I think, until noon. So really, if you've got a chance, I want to encourage you to stop down, look at the tables, introduce yourself. And then if we could say, if I could introduce a blockchain expert here in Colorado. Emily Garnett is here. Oh.
Thank you. Representative Pelton?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to recognize Eastern Colorado Services for the Developmentally Disabled is here today.
Representative Duran.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to recognize the Women's Lobby of Colorado, if you could stand up. Thank you for being here.
Welcome to the Capitol. Representative McKean.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And folks, today we have a meeting of the Technology Caucus, and we're going to have Mike Spalding from Comcast. We have Ethan Jeans. It's not today, tomorrow. And we're going to be talking about broadband network principles. So it's going to be an LSB-B, noon to 1:15. Come on down.
Thank you. Representative Kipp.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome my ARC of Larimer County friends who are here on the floor with me this morning. Thank you for coming down, and thank you for representing Larimer County in the ARC.
Representative Hansen.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. Members of the House Appropriations Committee, this is your advanced warning that we are meeting tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. We will be hearing House Bill 1003, 1004, 1121, 1150, 1166, 1177, and a couple of Senate bills, number 9 and number 35. I look forward to seeing everyone for 8 o'clock gavel.
Thank you. Oh, Kelly. Sorry. Representative Gray.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Transportation and Local Government Committee, we will meet at 1:30 in room 112 today to hear House Bills 1157, 1023, and 1118. See you there.
Representative Byrd.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I would like to call your attention to some guests we have here from Habitat for Humanity. If my guests wouldn't mind standing up and be recognized. And while I'm here at the well, I would just like to take a moment to let you know they are having a lunch at the University Club today at noon. And if you have a moment, please stop by and thank them for all of their great work to make affordable home ownership a reality for so many people within the state of Colorado.
Representative Michelson Janae. Thank you, members. We are having our weekly Rotary announcements. If you haven't heard of Rotary or you need to know about it, check with any of us, and we're going to do the four-way test. Heidi, lead it.
The four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you for keeping that in mind today.
Good job. It's our Rotary.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to go on record, colleagues, as I'm one of the Rotarians up here that does that by memory. I don't need a cheat sheet, so I just thought I would point that out. Colleagues, we are privileged to have another group with us today. I have my StarPoint group here. If they'd please stand. They work with the special needs folks in my community, and they're a great bunch of folks. So welcome to the state capitol.
Representative Froelich.
A brief hello, colleagues, to the Cherry Creek Legislative Network folks that are perhaps in the House. Welcome, Cherry Creek Public Schools supporters.
Representative Carver.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, if you would please extend a welcome to the guests here from Mosaic in Colorado Springs, and if you'd please stand.
Representative Rich.
What? Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just a point that I have received permission to be excused at 3 o'clock on Friday, March the 1st.
Representative Lontine.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members of the Health and Insurance Committee, we have a big afternoon. We are meeting today in the Old State Library, also known as Room 271, to hear House Bills 1076 and 1168. Let's all be on time. Thank you. 1:30.
Representative Mullica.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I just want to invite you to the Municipal Caucus Lunch, the first one ever, today in HCR 109. We have 17 former municipal elected officials in both chambers, and CML will be holding a lunch in HCR 109 at 12 o'clock today.
Representative Valdez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also want to recognize Blue Peaks here from Alamosa and with the Alliance. They're up in the gallery. Welcome.
Representative McKean and Representative Buenteo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
How do we move a tribute?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have a tribute, and I would ask for it to be read at length.
The Senate and House of Representatives convene in the 72nd General Assembly hereby extend sincere commendations to Alliance, the Arc of Colorado, JFK Partners, Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Support, People with intellectual and developmental disabilities, IDD, are defined by their strengths, abilities, and inherent value. With appropriate resources, services, and personalized supports, they make decisions about their own lives and contribute to their communities. Community living is a fundamental moral, civil, and constitutional right for people with IDD. IDD advocates, or advocacy organizations, clinicians, researchers, policy analysts, community-based service providers, case managers, and direct support professionals work in partnership with people with IDD and with parents, families, the legislature, and state agencies to strengthen the service delivery system so people can live productive, healthy lives in their communities. The members of the Colorado General Assembly are proud to recognize the organizations for their dedication in support of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and we are grateful for their encouragement given to those in need. On request of Representatives Bree Bunteo and Hugh McKean, and also Senators Bob Rankin and Rachel Zenzinger, given this 27th day of February 2019, State Capitol in Denver.
Representative McKean.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Connor, for reading that. Thank you to all the people here today who have intellectual and developmental disabilities and all of those who work with our kids and our adults and help them through life. Thank you for being here today. You guys notice that I don't have my cohort here. Colton Elijah Parks is my best friend. He is 8 as of Friday. He is also big enough now that he's kind of like a large, wet, square bale of hay. And any of you who have ever thrown bales of hay, you will understand. I'm not lifting him up. So, but Colton turned 8 on Friday, and I went and helped remake his room so that it was a room for an 8-year-old. He now has a swing in his room, which actually helps him with his core strength, which is kind of a huge thing. But he also has that boy has more toys than anybody I've ever known in my life. However, he eschews the use of those toys so that he can go do his math. So at 8 years old, I got a video yesterday of Colton doing his subtracts. And I will tell you, and I've told you this before, life with somebody with Down syndrome often has less to do about Down syndrome than the fact that, in Colton's case, he's 8. There are more things that we come across in our lives and in our lives together when I'm spending time with him, playing with him, where truly the only, well, mentally I'm about 8, but truly the only dividing point is, what is an 8-year-old thinking about this? And I think it's a remarkable thing that we all need to remember on a day like today. Because we have people who pour their lives into our kids. We have our kids who work through their life at a slightly different pace. I was told a long time ago that the amazing thing about Colton is that you will stop and smell the flowers. What an absolutely delightful gift. Because tomorrow is kind of a theory for Colton. There's stuff he will plan for and remember, but really it's today. It's right now. And that is one of those amazing gifts for me, is that when we spend time together, we are in that moment right then. We are present together in that second. So when you have a chance, spend time with your friends who have intellectual and developmental disabilities. Spend time with the people who pour their lives into our kids, and thank them every chance you get.
Representative Bunteo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It is an honor to serve with you. Today is Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Awareness Day here at the Capitol, and it's my honor to pay tribute and talk a little bit about the little love of my life who had a meltdown this morning and can't be here with us today. His name's Noel Aspen Hendrickson. He's a student with exceptionalities at Morton Elementary in Pueblo, identified as being on the autism spectrum with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Noel was diagnosed at 3 years old. For months, I worked my way through the red tape to get him in front of experts. Hours of evaluations, doctor's appointments, insurance appeals, fighting insurance companies for what my son needed. The day he was diagnosed, my husband and I were devastated. What did this mean for our little boy? You see, in our minds, we saw a future defined and limited, truly, by his disability. Historically, education options for students like my son were at best limited. We were worried about Noel's ability to participate in general education classrooms and eventually someday his independence and productivity as a citizen. In fact, the day he was diagnosed, the experts told us that Noel's independent living as an adult was an impossible dream, that our son would never attain that level of academic or functional achievement, and that we should sign up for a slot at a group home as the wait list was more than 20 years long. That wasn't good enough for our boy. You see, what the doctors didn't know was that our boy's a fighter. A military brat with the quiet strength of a Henriksen and all the spitfire of a Buenteo. Our little boy has been a fire from the day he was born. He's in 2nd grade now and enjoys hiking, fishing, race cars, roller coasters, running with our dog Simo, and my personal favorite, talking back to his mama and daddy. And you know what? That was impossible at one point. They told us he wouldn't speak, he wouldn't be able to tie his own shoes, wouldn't be able to go to general education. It was supposedly impossible. And my son wouldn't be where he is today without the support of his loving family and friends, but also his teachers, speech pathologists, occupational therapists, behavioral specialists, and truly our community who have supported our boy throughout the years. For over 50 years, Coloradans with IDD have had access to these community-based supports, and we have made significant progress towards ensuring everyone has access to the support that they need to reach their full potential. My son's growth is a testament to this progress here in Colorado. However, despite this progress, people with intellectual disabilities and developmental disabilities still experience barriers to integration, employment, healthcare, education, housing, and other aspects of community living that we take for granted. There's still so much more that we can do to address these barriers. One way we can do this is by eliminating the wait list for services, which today has over 3,000 people on it. Many people on the waiting list have been waiting for over a decade to the comprehensive support that they need, people like my son. Today, as part of IDD Awareness Day, the IDD community is highlighting the waiting list and the human impact it has on our state. Each one of you has on your desk a flag and some information about the waiting list. We encourage you to look at that information, and if you're attending the luncheon this afternoon, to look for the flag display in front of McNichols Civic Center building. I know that I wouldn't be the woman I am today without the inspiration of my own little fighter, who taught me over the years that what seems impossible is not only doable, but indeed worth fighting for, and with everything you've got. Thank you very much. Hope to see you this afternoon.
Thank you, Representatives McKean and Buenteo. That was beautiful. Representative Michelson-Jeannet.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I just want to underscore what our colleagues just said, in case you didn't hear it. There are 3,000 people that are waiting for care or for support. And we can't throw our hands up and say there's nothing we can do about it, because guess what? We are the ones who can do something about it. And maybe it takes looking completely differently at the way we're doing the wait list, the way we're doing care, the way we're getting resources to our community. Maybe there's a more efficient way for us to spend our dollars. And I think it's incumbent upon us. We were elected to serve the people, and that includes individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. They deserve our attention and our care as much as anybody else who has maybe a little bit more access to us. It's much harder for them to get down here, and maybe they don't have the access or means to call us on the phone. Maybe they don't know how to, can't think of a better word than lobby. They don't know how to lobby us for their cause, so we have to do it. We have to do it. We are the parents. We are the overseers. We are the community. So let us please come together and figure out how to once and for all end the wait list.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I really didn't want to come down here today, but there's a lot of new folks here in the chamber, and you haven't heard Lisa's story, and I want to share that with you. Representative McKean standing back there laughing because he knows the story. Lisa, you've got to go back several years, a lot of years actually, right after I graduated from high school, which is over 50 years ago. My brother and I had a hay hauling crew to help pay our way through college, and so we worked with a gentleman that actually got us started in it by the name of Merle Crow, and while we were working with him and for him, they had their first baby, a little girl. And 50 years ago, we didn't identify IDD kids quite as quickly as we do today. And Merle and Linda did what a lot of parents do. They denied that there was anything at all wrong with their child. And my brother Fred and I mean, everyone knew that Lisa wasn't quite like everyone else. As she grew and became a little older and started talking, and you've got to understand that when you're an egocentric college athlete and lifting weights and hauling hay and thinking you can whip the world and so forth, you're really not the hugging person that I am today. So as Lisa grew, we'd go to their house and we'd have lunch. And she'd come up and give me the biggest hug and say, "I love you, Jim Wilson." And it just drove me nuts. I was just rigid as a post. I wasn't used to that. And Lisa continued to grow, and every time I'd see her, and they also went to our church, she'd hug me and say, "I love you, Jim Wilson." And so I started learning from Lisa. I started learning what life is really all about. Being around people who care about you and not being afraid to say, "I love you." She continued to grow. And of course, I went off to college and finally found a job that I didn't have to haul hay. And so that relationship was just a church relationship. Lisa got a job putting together pallets. That's not exactly an exciting job. She continued to grow, and people worked with her, and she continued to develop and got into a group home, which was huge for her. And after she came back and said that she was in a group home, I said, "Congratulations, Lisa." And guess what? She hugged me and said, "I love you, Jim Wilson." Well, in that group home, she got another job, putting tomato paste on pizzas on an assembly line. Something that would drive me nuts, and she loved it. Pizza, sauce, pizza, sauce, pizza, sauce, and she loved it. Lisa passed away a few years ago. I have her picture in my desk over in my office to remind me of what's really important, because I believe that God puts people in our lives, and in this case, a special IDD student, to teach me that it's important to hug people and to tell them, "I love you, Jim Wilson." I will always be indebted to Lisa, and I miss her. Thank you.
Thank you, members. I have a couple announcements. Representative Larson will substitute for Representative Catlin on the Health Insurance Committee for today only. Representative Sirota will replace Representative Exum on Transportation and Local Government today only. And Representative Garnett will replace Representative Esgar on Appropriations Committee tomorrow only. The next order of business is General Order, second reading. Representative Cutter. You have heard the motion. Seeing no objection, Representative Cutter will take the chair.
The committee will come to order. With your unanimous consent, the bills will be read by title unless there is a request for reading a bill at length. Committee amendments will not be read unless requested, as they are printed and in your bill folders. Floor amendments will be shown on the screen and on your iPads and not read unless requested. Bills will be laid over upon motion of the majority leader. The coat rule is relaxed. Yeah, we got my calendars.
Please read the title.
Okay. Mr. Randall, please read the title of SB 19-043.
Senate Bill 43 by Senators Lee and Gardner, House Representatives Herod and Carver, concerning an increase in the number of district court judges in certain judicial districts in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Okay, now I do. Okay. Okay. Representative Carver.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the judiciary report to SB 43.
To the report.
Members, this just made some technical changes, and I ask for a yes vote. Oh.
Representative Carver.
Also move the appropriations report and ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. To the committee report. Okay. Representative Carver.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There was some adjustments made in appropriations, and ask for an aye vote.
Is there any discussion? Representative Benavides.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Amendment L008 to amend the appropriations report and ask that it be displayed.
The amendment is properly before us. Please proceed.
Members, I would really like your attention on this bill. This is a bill that adds 15 new judges, and that sounds great, but it actually adds 79 FTE. And these judge FTEs are not normal FTEs. Once we approve a district court judge FTE, that FTE can only be removed by a vote of the people. These judges have to stand for retention, and then they stand every 5 years, and they can be voted down, but that's the way to get rid of them. So if we want to continue to keep these judges, then it is important that we truly understand it. And what this amendment does, because if you look at your bill, and this is a very easy bill, if you pull the bill out, you will see that it lists different districts where these 15 judges will be assigned. In the Senate, there was an amendment added that added an appropriations clause. And part of that appropriation clause was to add FTE for the State Public Defender's Office. And it adds 22.8 FTE for the Public Defender's Office. You know, when I first saw this clause, I went to the JBC and I said, wait a minute, how come we have public defenders on this? And you know what they told me? They said, this is normally how it's done. And they pointed me in the direction of a bill in 2007 where we did add judges. We added approximately 10 in the first year, and we added more in the second year, and we added 7 FTE in the State Public Defender's Office on that bill. We did that, and I'm not denying it happened, but I don't think it was best practice, and it certainly didn't set a pattern for how we do these things. A year ago, we gave the State Public Defender's Office 56 FTE, and they had to fully substantiate that to the Joint Budget Committee. They had to say what their caseload was, why they needed those additional FTE, and how they would be used. None of that has happened in this case. In the State Judiciary Committee hearing, we did hear from the State Public Defender's Office, and they basically said, well, if there are going to be new courtrooms, we need FTE. And this is after the state court administrator told us that out of those 15 new judges, only about 2/3 of them, approximately 10, would be criminal courts. So there was never any showing whatsoever of what the caseload was and how adding these FTE changed the ratio of the state public defenders to the caseload. You know, I'm not opposed if there's a need that we approve it. But members, these are not our dollars. This is a taxpayer's money. And if we're going to spend this much money, not just this year, but every year following this, then we need to know what it's used for. One other thing, this is starting this coming year. Well, if you get 15 new judges, guess what? They don't show up on July 1st, even though this takes immediate effect. They have to go through the nominations commissions in those districts. They have to fill out their applications, which are extensive. They have to go through interviews. Then that commission ultimately nominates 3 judges per district to the governor to choose. So then, once they're selected, then they have to go to the courtroom eventually. But these start public defenders in July. We don't need them in July. And we haven't looked at the need for those. What this amendment does, it removes the public defender's appropriation in this bill because it was never justified to us. You know, I know it's not easy to buck your party or this whole assembly. But if I'm going to spend the dollars that my constituents put forward in their taxes, I'm going to make sure I'm spending it the best possible way. And this does not do that at this time. So I would ask you to please fully consider this amendment to remove the public defenders. And again, if we remove it out of this bill, it doesn't stop them from coming back later in the year or next year when they can establish the need for public defenders. But for right now, that has never been proven to us. So please support this amendment. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on the amendment? Representative Carver?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, in the fairly extensive testimony we heard from the judicial branch during the SMART Act hearings, they provided fairly detailed analysis on the rising level of criminal cases that we have. And yes, the majority of the additional judgeships are being driven by the criminal docket. But in the committee hearing, the point was made that if you are going to hear a criminal case, you need 4 people, right? You need the judge, you need the accused, you need a defense counsel, and you need a prosecutor. So if we are expanding capacity in the judiciary to deal with the rising number of cases, particularly in the criminal docket, it doesn't make a lot of sense to add judges and then you don't have sufficient defense counsel to actually be there in court to do these cases. We have historically done the judges and the defense counsel together. And the analysis of the FTE that provides the support for additional defense counsel are based upon the current and expected caseload in the criminal docket. So I ask for a no vote on this amendment. If we are going to expand the viability and functionality of our judicial department, particularly in the criminal area, we need this bill to also address defense counsel, which is how we have historically done expansion of capacity in the judicial branch. So I ask for a no vote.
Representative Herod.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and please excuse us. We also need to move Senate Bill 43. We are on the so I move Senate Bill 43. We are on the Appropriations Committee report. I ask for a no vote on this amendment.
Properly moved. Representative Melton.
Demoted already. Dang. Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I ask for a no vote on this amendment. I'm not a big fan of this bill. I don't feel like this bill is really solving the problem. It's only addressing the symptoms that we're having in terms of increased caseload and a bloated judicial system. But if we take this out, I want you to pay attention that we take out lines 23 through 30, or 26 through 33, that is removing the public defenders. And members, if we're going to increase the workload of the courts and have more cases being heard, then I think it's due diligence to make sure that there are public defenders there as well to make sure that justice is actually happening. Without this, I can tell you I'll be a no on the bill, and again, I'm not in love with this bill. But this amendment makes this bill even worse, makes it terrible. And it takes away the individual's need, constitutional right, in my opinion, for being able to have a defense provided. And so I appreciate where Representative Benavides, my colleague from Adams County, is going, but this makes, to me, a not great bill bad. I ask for a no vote.
Let's see. Representative Felton, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I rise up against this amendment. There are two rural districts that are in this, and these judges are having to cover a lot of square miles, and they're just getting run ragged between driving and serving in the court. And so I rise up against this amendment. Thank you.
Representative Soper? No? Yeah. Okay. Representative Benavides.
Members, again, you know, when we say we've historically done it this way, we did it one time. One time did we do it this way. And history, that could be an anomaly. You know, maybe they had more of information and they established a need for all those positions. I don't know. I didn't listen to all the archived hearings. But we don't have a pattern how this was done. And yes, I attended our SMART hearings, and I attended the hearings on this, and they all refer to percentages, that we have an increasing percentage of felony caseload, that in various districts the percentage went up from 37% up to 69%. No numbers. And when we talk about if we have cases, they have to be represented. I agree completely. But in that hearing, I specifically asked the court administrator, because of speedy trial, where we have to dismiss a criminal case because they are not gotten to in time, they are not defended, they said, no, we are handling the entire caseload. We are not losing any felony cases because of that. The cases that are getting the short shrift in this are the civil cases. It is not the criminal cases. I have an email from the state public defender to the JBC analyst that said, we weren't going to ask for any more FTE this year. The only reason they're adding it is because the judges are adding new courtrooms. People are getting represented. And again, this starts this money right away. This need is not here yet because those new courtrooms do not exist yet. And they will not exist the minute this bill is signed. So what I'm saying by putting this amendment in is not saying if there's an established need, let's do it. But let's be satisfied and have them document the need to us. That has not been done at all. So again, members, this is not, it's more of a timing issue. If we do vote to establish new courtrooms and there's a need, fine, come back and justify that need. But at our hearing, all of those felony cases were being covered, and the state public defender, knowing there's increases in felony filings, was not planning to ask for additional FTE this year. So that tells you about handling a caseload. It is being done right now. So, members, I encourage you to support this bill.
Representative Herod.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And with all due respect to my colleague, we did hear testimony specifically talking about the caseload in the courts. We went through every single jurisdiction that was looking for judges. They are operating at below 80%, 70% in some cases. We're only trying to get them to 82%, which is still very problematic, but it is a conservative way forward. On the district attorneys, or on the public defenders piece, members, I have an article. We were actually in the New York Times recently looking at Colorado and our rate of public defenders. It actually states that in Colorado, our public defenders have 2 to 3 times the workload that they should to provide an adequate defense. 2 to 3 times the workload that they should to provide an adequate defense. Our courts are bursting at the seams. And it is imperative that we fund our increase in judges, which is required by law, that we have that vote here today. And this appropriation report does reflect the conversation that we had in committee. Specifically, we talked about where the judges would be going, criminal dockets, civil dockets, and we added the defenders around the criminal dockets as requested. We know that there's been an increase in felony filings in Colorado. Yes, it's an anomaly, but it's happened. We know there's been population increases in Colorado. We know that information. We've talked about that information. And what the Appropriations Committee report does, rightfully so, and in the astute wisdom of the Appropriations Committee, they reduced the funding on the fiscal note, so that we're not paying for judges who are not in seats yet handling dockets. And so, quite frankly, this appropriations report, again, is a conservative way forward. It does adequately address all of the objections that my colleague has brought forward. This is a bipartisan measure. I appreciate the support of the committee, and I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion?
A no vote on the amendment, and aye vote on the bill. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none? Let's see, hold on. Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L008 to the Appropriations Committee report. Those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The noes have it, and that amendment fails. Representatives to the appropriations.
No. I ask for an aye vote on the Appropriations Committee report.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, let's see. The question before us is the adoption of the committee report. Those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. to the Judiciary Report. Representative Harrod.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I ask for an aye vote on the Judiciary Committee report.
Is there any further discussion? No. Representative Benavides?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move Amendment L006 and ask that it be displayed.
The amendment is properly before us. Please proceed.
Members, when we were in Judiciary Committee, I brought an amendment that was severed. The reason for the amendment and the piece that was added to this is, as I told you before, with these particular FTEs, we cannot remove them if caseload goes down or anything else. They stay there because they're voted on by the people. Those judgeships are voted on at a retention decision on your ballot. I'm sure you've all seen them. So what was added in the Judiciary Committee report was that the state court administrator would advise us annually on October 1st on where we are as far as caseload and utilization of these judges. The second part of it was severed, and that's this part. What this part says is that based on that report annually that we get, then we can decide, again, all we do is hold the purse strings. We get to decide, should we reduce the funding to the courts and allow those positions to not be filled based on attrition, not removing somebody, but based on retirement or removal or resignation. And it doesn't require us to. This is just a reminder to the people that come after us that every year, if this report says something to us, then maybe we need to think about reducing the funding. We can't remove the positions, but we can reduce funding if we find the need is not there. And I can tell you, when we talk about caseload, it was so interesting is that the court administrator said, Colorado is the only state in the country that has this kind of rising felony caseload. So what does that say about Colorado? No other state is experiencing this, just Colorado. Hopefully, we will get a handle on this sooner than later. And if we get a handle on it, we should not have to continue to pay for judges we don't need once they retire or removed. And that's all this says. It says, look, and I know we have the ability right now in the budget to reduce budgets or anything else. But oftentimes we need a little kick, a little reminder to say, you do have the authority to do this, and you might want to think about it. So that's what this amendment does, and I encourage you to support the amendment.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Harrod.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and you are doing a great job in the chair, and I hope to see you there so much more often.
Thank you, Representative.
So I ask for a no vote on this amendment. Members, this is in contradiction to the Constitution of the State of Colorado. Article 6, Section 10, we have to increase or decrease judges by a 2/3 vote of the General Assembly. And so I ask for a no vote. It's, you might say it's redundant, but we can't just say we are going to remove a judge from the district based on attrition by a vote of the General Assembly. The Constitution clearly states 2/3 are required for adding judges and decreasing judges. We did add, though, in the Judiciary Committee report, since we are to the committee report as well, a reporting requirement so that we do hear in SMART Act hearings reporting around this, which I think does provide a great reminder in case we do want to bring a bill forward to reduce the number of judges. I ask for a no vote on this amendment and a yes vote on the Judiciary Committee report.
Representative Benavides.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just to clarify, the plain language of this does not reduce the numbers of judges. It reduces the appropriation. They could keep the judges if they want to get rid of others if we reduce the appropriation. That is not unconstitutional. So I encourage you to support the amendment.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L006 to the Judiciary Committee report. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. No. The noes have it. That amendment fails. To the Judiciary Committee report. Is there any further discussion? Representative Benavides.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Madam Chair, I move L007 and ask that it be displayed. Which one?
The amendment is properly before us. Please proceed.
Members, this bill, if you look at the title of the bill, it's to increase the number of judges. What this bill does on lines 5 through 22 of the Judiciary Report, it establishes a new position in the Office of the State Court Administrator that will be responsible for education and outreach regarding judicial office vacancies. And it'll deliver educational programming for attorneys and law students regarding judicial vacancies. We heard this as an amendment. We had no testimony about it. We had no discussion about it. Now, I will stand here and tell you, we've got a problem with diversity in our judicial system. We have very few judges of color. As my colleague in the Senate, who was a sponsor of this bill, he referred to it as declining diversity in the judiciary. This bill does not guarantee that we will have diversity. This amendment addresses this amendment that was put on to say if we create a position that does outreach, that's going to do it. If we'd have a full discussion on the need for this and what their objectives and how we would ensure diversity in the judicial ranks, I would be supportive. But when we're going to create, again, positions and we don't have full discussion about what these positions will do and how they will do it, it isn't fair to any of us. We have to have full discussion on these. So I would urge that you approve the amendment which removes that additional position, because now we're not just at 78 FTE, we're at 79 FTE for 15 judges. So, thank you.
Representative Herod.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I ask for a no vote on this amendment.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L007 to the Judiciary Committee report. Those in favor, aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The amendment fails. To the committee report. Is there any further discussion? Representative Soper.
No, sorry.
Never mind. The question before us is the adoption of the committee report. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. To the bill. Representative Soper.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. It's a pleasure to serve with you.
And you as well. Thank you.
So I rise in support of Senate Bill 43. This is definitely much needed. And as a matter of fact, I actually believe it does not go far enough in adding enough judges. In Mesa County alone, which is the 21st Judicial District, over the last 2 years, we've seen an increase in violent crime by over 500%. The last time that a judge was added in the 21st Judicial District was in 2008. That's over 10 years ago. We definitely out west could see 2 judges rather than just 1. From 2017 to 2018, felony filings were up 8.9%. And I've been informed that so far in 2019, felony filings are up by over 4% from the year before. We have 611 beds in Mesa County's jail. and on average, 574 are filled. My friends on the civil bar in the 21st Judicial District tell me that any sort of civil court matter, such as a contract dispute, a divorce, it's now getting pushed back by over 2 years because of the criminal court filings and speedy trial issues, which is why I would offer Amendment L009 and ask that it be displayed.
The amendment is properly displayed before us. Please proceed.
Oh, thank you. This would move Mesa County's, or the 21st Judicial District's, allotment from 6 to 7, which would be in accordance with how much our criminal filings have increased. I ask for an aye vote.
Representative Harrod?
Members, I ask for a no vote on this amendment. I appreciate the concerns. We are at 80. We are trying to get our judges to 82%. This was, again, a conservative way forward. We definitely are open to having more conversations about increasing judges, but I think we've decided that the 6 is enough, not 7. I ask for a no vote on the amendment.
Representative Soper.
I've just been informed about a deadline that we need to get through, and so because of that, I will withdraw the amendment here. But I still want to make the point that certainly out west, we could use more judges, so I withdraw the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Soper. Amendment withdrawn. To the bill. Representative Carver.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, the first phone call I got on this bill came from my DA. The second phone call came from those that handle civil matters in the 4th Judicial District. The third phone call was from the Chief Judge. I only heard from defense counsel at the committee hearing. But let me tell you the story that I heard from them, which I think you may have gotten similar phone calls, is that our court system right now in Colorado is at the breaking point. Because of increased population, we have more criminal cases and more civil cases. What are those civil cases? Divorce, child custody, probate, landlord-tenant, contract disputes, you name it. All of those are civil law cases. The same judges hear both criminal and civil matters. Our system is strained at the breaking point, which is why, curiously enough, the first phone call I get is from the DAs, who you would think, well, why are they supporting a bill to get more judges and more defense counsel? It's because they know the system itself must get more capacity. And so I suspect you have gotten those same phone calls. Across the board, members, we are at a point where civil cases are getting delayed multiple times. Individuals are not getting their legal disputes resolved in a timely fashion. We are straining, and we heard from 2 DAs with massive court dockets, straining to meet speedy trial. And that is ferociously difficult now, and it will only get worse. This is a core government function, and it requires the support of the legislature to increase the number of judgeships. I ask for a yes vote on this bill.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the Representative Harrod.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I ask for a yes vote on this bill. I want to say that as a Judiciary Committee, we have been talking long and hard about the increase in felony filings in Colorado. We have been talking about the disproportionate impacts on people of color and low-income people in the criminal justice system. I have been a strong proponent of decreasing the DOC budget, of not creating new felony offenses that increase our budget in DOC as well as our court budget. But members, this is not that bill. This bill is simply about our judges. Our courts are bursting at the seams right now. And as my colleague said earlier, we are not doing justice when we are not allowing government to form a critical function of government, which is the courts. So we heard from some judges in committee, and there was one story that really struck out to me. And the one that stood out to me was about a judge who said, we are not able to get through our dockets. People are leaving our courts because they don't feel like they can find justice here. That is hugely problematic, members, whether it's civil, whether it's criminal, whether it's juveniles. Our court should be a place where our citizens can find justice. And if you are waiting for trials for a year, if your docket is currently being shuffled and moved around, we are not doing justice. We have received documentation, and will continue to receive documentation, that shows the way our dockets are being managed because of the shortfall that's created by the lack of judges. We have a constitutional requirement to pass this bill if we want to increase the number of judges. We can't just put it in the long bill. There's no other way to do that except for through this means, because it is an important discussion, and because we do need to have bipartisan support to get this through. The Senate passed this bill without opposition. I too ask that we pass this bill without opposition. I ask for your support today. We need to make sure that our courts are doing justice and not play political games with people who are just seeking help. Thank you.
Representative Weissman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I believe the case for this bill has been pretty capably stated by the sponsors of both parties, but I would be remiss if I didn't come down as the person who chairs the Judiciary Committee, where we heard this bill and who has a heightened interest in the efficient administration of justice in our state. I am right up there with anybody else in this legislature who wants to reform our criminal laws and protect public safety in a different way than we have been doing for a long time. There will be other bills in which to have those discussions. It remains right now that criminal filings are going up, that civil filings are backing up, as you've heard, behind those. Whatever we think the criminal law should be, whatever we think the civil law should be, I hope that we could all agree that when you have a dispute arising under either law, you can get it heard quickly. We are talking about the proper functioning of a full third of constitutional government here. We are talking about an absolutely core function of what we are here to do. Everything in this bill is pretty consistent with the last times that we have increased judges in Colorado. We're adding new judges. Therefore, I think it's appropriate to increase our outreach in recruitment to bring forward candidates to the nominating commissions. That includes candidates from the private sector as well as communities of color who aren't traditionally represented. Yes, we are adding staff because judges need staff to do the work of judging. Yes, we are adding public defenders because a lot of these will be new criminal dockets, and people have a right to representation, a constitutional right to representation. And as you heard, public defenders are some of the most overworked individuals in the state of Colorado. So when we added judges in 2007, when we added judges in 2001, we did the same thing as we're doing now. There's nothing out of the ordinary about that. So I appreciate our colleagues' attention to fiscal details. I think that that is warranted here. And again, let's take our debates about what the civil law should be and what the criminal law should be to another bill, another time. Let us honor a commitment for functional government and speedy redress of wrongs, civil or criminal. We do need 2/3 to pass this bill. That is constitutional. I hope we have more than 2/3. I hope that we can all agree this is the right thing to do for people who've elected us to look out for the basic function of government in the state. I ask for a yes vote.
Is there any further discussion? Representative Melton.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Members, this this is really, for me, a hold your nose and vote yes, because we got to do it. Unfortunately, we have to do it. But, and I appreciate the sponsors working hard on addressing a number of the concerns that came up in judiciary and that members have had. So I think that you've definitely made this bill a better bill. But as like I said, this is a Band-Aid. This is a Band-Aid to a bigger problem, and I understand that this bill can't solve that problem. I think we have to continue to work on that as a legislative body. And I think that we need to also put pressure on our DAs to say quit doing the, over-filing, overcharging, and bogging down the court system. That's really where the problem lies. Honestly, we could trace that to the problems we're having with DOC. We could trace that to the problems we're having with the rising prison population and a number of things. So I say, members, let's eventually get to the root of the problem, but for today, because we do need to deal with this right now, it is of immediate concern, and this is what we do in the legislature. Again, I'm going to ask that you hold your nose and vote yes on this.
Representative Gray.
Thank you, members. Just briefly, one point of reference. I left my felony docket in the 17th Judicial District in Adams County almost exactly 5 years ago right now, and we were setting trials within a week or two of the speedy trial deadline on a regular basis. And we would have 5 or 6 trials stacked up on each one of those days, and we were having a real capacity problem 5 years ago. So I think we're well over time to actually address the concerns that we have. As everybody said, we can address our overlying policies, but our population isn't getting smaller no matter what. So even as we adjust to try to mitigate and decrease the number of actions that we have filed, we just need to recognize we have a growing state and have true justice happen by actually having capacity for it. So I'd ask for your support of the bill.
Any further? Yes, Representative Exum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And members, I just want to make a few comments. I'm in support of this bill, but a few weeks ago I had a conversation with the Chief Justice from El Paso County, and we were talking about this bill along with Senator Lee and the need for it. And I understand the docket is full, and about the justice piece that Chief Justice didn't feel like they were offering justice to the people because the dockets were so full, and because of the law says that we're required to give a speedy trial to those criminal cases. Things are getting backed up. I get that. But my difficulty, and this is a personal thing, was that the Chief Justice didn't want to talk about what's happening on the other end, on why the docket is being full, why we have overzealous DAs that are giving out sentences to people of color for nonviolent offenses. There was no opinion on that. And I understand the separation of the judicial branch, the executive and legislative branch, but my goodness, if you don't have an opinion and your docket is being full and you're making decisions on those people that are coming that way, then that's why I had an issue with. So we had a good conversation, but I'm in support of the bill, but I still think we need to continue to have a conversation on why the number of people of color are entering into our criminal justice systems for nonviolent offenses. So thank you, members.
Representative McKean.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. This is why we love Judiciary Committee bills, because we all come down and just tell you what's going on. But you needed to know because you weren't all there. That's all I'm saying. One of the things, and one of the I think the great benefits of going and talking to your Chief Justices and really kind of digging into this was referenced by Representative Herod, and I think it's worth paying a little bit more attention to. We are rapidly grinding the wheels of justice to a halt. And as we do that, we do it in this myriad of ways, whether it is from lower level felony filings, whether it is more civil cases. But what truly is happening is people are going to court and they're getting postponed and they're getting postponed and they're getting postponed. And you've got people who are taking time off from work to get down there. And you've got people who want to finish their divorce. You've got people who want to make sure that a civil case is finalized so that they can get on with their lives, whether it be financially or in some other way. And what we're doing is we're robbing them of the ability to do that because our dockets are so full. And so unless there is some magic pill to make sure that our dockets somehow relieve themselves of this strain, we have got to do something about it. And to do that, we need 2/3 of the votes in this chamber. And I would ask all of you to vote for this bill. This is something we need to do. When we say our Pledge of Allegiance, how many people in here say, "and justice for all"? Well, folks, justice takes people. Please vote yes.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 19-043. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. Senate Bill 19-043 passes. Okay, yeah, okay. Mr. Randall, can you please read Senate Bill 19-0... Can you read the title of Senate Bill 19-057?
Senate Bill 57 by Senator Story and Zenzinger, also a representative of McCluskey, concerning information relating to employee eligibility for student loan repayment programs.
Thank you, Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is a joy to serve with you.
And you as well.
Thank you. I move Senate Bill 19-057 on second reading.
To the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Student loan debt and the pressures that puts on our working people is in this state and across the nation at a critical level. In Colorado alone, students are carrying more than $26 billion in debt, and Colorado ranks 36th in the nation for average student loan debt of roughly $36,000 per student. And why does it matter? The weight of student loan debt is a weight on our local and state economies. Students entering the workforce are constrained by debt and struggle to afford housing, health care, child care, and sometimes end up even defaulting on those loans. While there's a great deal more that we can and should be doing to alleviate the cost of a college education, Senate Bill 57 is a no-nonsense, no-cost approach to helping some students find student debt relief. Senate Bill 57 will ensure that those employees in the public service sector are aware of the federal public service loan forgiveness program, a program that already exists, but few people apply for. This program is available to those in the public service sector and is designed to recruit and retain public sector employees who really don't earn the same dollars as those in the private sector. Students who make qualifying payments, 120 of those, 10 years worth, while working for an eligible employer, can expect forgiveness. Now, eligible public service employees include state and local government employees, teachers, law enforcement, and members of our active duty military service. This program was started in 2007. The dollars are already there. I am asking today for your support of Senate Bill 57 so that we can better communicate with our public service sector employees on what their options are under this program and how they might secure student debt relief. I ask for your support on Senate Bill 57. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 19-057. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill's passed. Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You're doing a great job. It's an honor to serve with you.
You as well.
I move to lay over House Bill 1153 until tomorrow, Thursday, February 28th.
Are there any objections? Seeing none, House Bill 19-1153 will be laid over as requested by the Majority Leader. Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
Seeing no objection,
The committee will rise and report.
the committee will rise and report.
Gallo.
House will come back to order. Mr. Randall, please read the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Madam Speaker, your committee of the whole Big League report is introduced following text bills being a second reading of their expiring recommendations there on House Senate Bill 43's minutes, Senate Bill 57 passing or raised, please count of 30 and final passage. House Bill 1153 is laid over until February 28, 2019, retains place on the calendar.
Where is, Representative Cutter. You have heard the motion, and there are no amendments. The question before the House is the adoption of the Committee of the Whole report. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Geithner and Kennedy. Oh, yeah. I know. Representative Geithner. Okay. Please close the machine. With 62 aye votes, 2 no votes, and 1 vacant, the Committee of the Whole report is passed. The next order of business is consideration of resolutions. Speaker Pro Tem Janet Buckner will take the helm.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. Connor, please read the title. Please read the title of SJR 19-005.
Senate Joint Resolution 5 by Senator Garcia, also Representative Becker, concerning the appointment of members of the Colorado Commission on Uniform State Laws.
Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. I move SJR 005, and I do not ask that it be read at length. It is a one sentence long. Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. So this is something we do every other year by statute. The appointments to the members of the Colorado Commission on Uniform State Laws must be done by resolution. So that's all that this does. It must be introduced by the Speaker and the Senate President. I do have an amendment to L002.
Thank you. Could we please display, thank you. Could we please display L002? Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. I move L002. This amendment, our former colleague in the Senate, Pat Stedman, who used to serve on the Uniform Law Commission, is stepping down, and so he will be replaced by Ms. Alicia Duran. He did that after the resolution passed through the Senate, so I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. The question before us is the adoption of L002. Are there any objections? All those in favor, say aye. Is there any further discussion? All those opposed, say no before we have that discussion. Seeing none, the motion is for the adoption of L002. It passes.
Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. I ask for an aye vote on Senate Joint Resolution 005.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We will take a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The motion passes. Senate Joint Resolution 19-005 passes.
That brings us back to announcements and introductions. Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to lay over the balance of the calendar till Thursday, February 28th.
Seeing no objection, the balance of the calendar will be laid over till tomorrow, Thursday, February 28th. And I have one updated announcement. Representative Mullica will replace Representative Esgar on Appropriations Committee tomorrow only. Representative Tracy Kraft-Tharp. Or
Thank you. Business Affairs and Labor Committee will be hearing House Bill 1209, Senate Bill 046, and then we will be having a presentation from CareerWise Colorado.
Representative McCluskey.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to invite everyone to a legislative reception this evening at the University Club from the American Resort Development Association and its timeshare members. Thank you very much. 5:30.
Representative Singer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Public Healthcare and Human Services Committee, we will be meeting at 10:40 a.m. or post-adjournment, 5 minutes post-adjournment, whichever comes last. So see you at 10:40.
Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members of the Capital Development Committee, we are meeting tomorrow morning promptly at 7:30 a.m. We have an agenda that we need to adjourn by 8 o'clock for appropriations, so we'll see you at 7:30 in room 357.
Representative Buck.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And tonight, the FFA, they do their awards for the Colorado Ag Hall of Fame. It's a wonderful event. You'll get to join some of the best people on earth at this dinner. So please come. It's tonight at the Radisson's over by the Stapleton Airport, Old Stapleton.
Representative Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And yes, I want to join in with Representative Buck. The Future Farmers of America put on this banquet. It's quite a banquet. Come on out and join us at the Renaissance. Thank you.
Are there any further announcements or introductions? Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House stay in recess until later today.
Seeing no objection, the House will be in recess till later today.